Hello, this is Leslie, and welcome to my channel. We are going to be doing I didn't have a real topic when I sat down, but I kept on seeing like smaller picture, bigger picture, smaller picture, bigger picture. And after a little bit of meditation, I thought, oh, what is the bigger picture that you are a part of? So our guides kind of want to talk about like the bigger picture you're a part of. For better or for worse, there's something to that. And there's a card kind of sticking up here with time out. Okay. And here is time and tide. So time is playing a huge role right now in, let me just like kind of like in your voice, because I kind of felt something at my shoulder. Like my throat chakra gets very activated when I'm channeling, and it becomes like a very fine-tuned instrument. And so with time and tide, with time out, and with wander, voyage, crossing deep waters, pilgrimage, journey of the soul, every single person, they're all they're in boats, right? So they're going somewhere, but there's something very significant about your timing with the endurance and keep going. So the bigger picture that you're a part of, so you're guys are saying like whatever you're kind of like working with in terms of timing right now, there's a bigger picture at play wherein timing plays like an enormous role in your readiness to speak in one way or another. There's a process of discovery that has to happen in a pensive place. And I'm hearing that there is something about, we're looking at a circumstance or a future, or there's a trajectory where everyone does get pulled in. I see like a tide, a rip tide, we get pulled into like a timeout. The pandemic was a kind of timeout. Like it looks like there's some sort of timeout that is a bigger picture that we're about to sort of be, that we're going to encounter here with the Six of Swords and the Tower. Yeah, we feel that, right? So the Six of Swords and the Tower, I don't read like in a traditional way. My divination is not like when people do divination, they're doing something that is their own, right? Everybody has like their own thing, but my style, it doesn't follow any of the rules. So if you're looking for some form to like make sense of, like this is a process that I've developed over a long period of time. But the Tower and the Six of Swords, this is a voyage. Like we said, the boat, Six of Swords, they're on a boat. They're moving from one place of captivity and into another place of freedom. I'm hearing that very powerfully. So the Tower that we have, we're being cautioned. Our guides are coming in to say like the bigger picture that you are a part of. And a lot of you can't see, or there's blinders on, or there's ways in which we're like focused on one thing. And so we can't always sort of appreciate the historical context that like we're living in, the things that, but the bigger picture that you are a part of. And this is not just, in terms of the globe, like this also is speaking to like your life, where you're wanting to be one place, but you're in another place and you're not sure why the movement isn't quite as you need it to be or want it to be, or it's like weird. And your guides are basically saying like there's a reason for like the pause. There's a reason why they are slowing you down. There's a reason you're being slowed down. There's a reason you're told to slow down. Like I almost feel like the guides have been like I kind of see like a chorus of like Christmas caroling. so I see like Christmas caroling, and it's like your guides are like, slow the fuck down, chill the fuck out, chill the fuck down, da na 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 na, calm down, you are time to like chill the fuck out, na 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 na, overreaction, spinning and like it's like I'm in no way making light of people's experiences, but like there's something about your guides that are saying that they spend like 24/7 at this point being like shh, and so there's something here that about you and it's funny, like again, maybe you do need to make light of it. Maybe there is an aspect of like you have to make light of it, because I can hear the chorus of like, sit down and read, like time to be, easier on yourself. Chill out. Take a breath. Some of that panic is structural. Like it is looking like the systems and the things that we rely on are not so like reliable. But your guys are saying there is a tower that is ongoing. It's not like it's coming. It's been happening. You're in it. The world is sort of in it. And what it looks like for you to endure through this is to actually relax a little bit. There is, with the Spirit has a plan. And that might be and the miracles are endless. And so, you know, there is a call to believe in some miracles, and we do that as a spiritual, like, that's an initiation. When you are in a position where you only have miracles to rely on because you're looking at a circumstance, and this is, and we can go all the way back. We can, like, you know, this traces through our ancestral genes, you know, like this wisdom, this gnosis about, like, the core of who we are, and like what it means to even be a human to a certain extent, is to face circumstances where there's, like, bad option winter, you know, bad option famine, and, like, one option, like, miracle. And our development and our relationship to spirituality and all of the evolution, all of the attention and the focus and the energy that has bent towards prayer and has bent towards connecting with, like, the ineffable, has bent towards creativity and intuition and innovation. You are, you know, it's the middle of winter, you're starving to death, you're going to die. It occurs to you that, like, you're going to eat the bark. It doesn't matter. You're going to try it. Maybe it's going to make you sick. You throw up. Okay. You know, now you're going to go and, like, you're going to have a big feast of snow that does something, you know, and now you're going to eat some dirt. Like, who knows? Like, are you going to be okay? You live another day. Like, and eventually you find out that the roots, like, that's something, you know, and so you start to, you're going to go and find all of the roots, and you're going to cook up the roots, and those roots, man, do they have what you need? And so now you're, you know, discovering mushrooms, and, like, some, you know, that, you know, one of them killed Timmy, you know what I mean? So you have to be careful. You need a miracle. You need the miraculous ability to kind of, like, zone in, you know, and find the right things and the right sustenance. But that process of survival is also a creative process. And when we are up against, you know, like, realities unknown, when we are in some kind of a social tower, and that's, like, varying degrees. Everyone has some form of, like, what it means to be in this change and have this kind of, like, you know, there is a sink or swim, like, newness, you know what I mean? And so with the miracles are endless, and the spiritual practice and what spirituality is and what relating to the gods is, and nature is alive, and it is sentient, and the consciousness is expansive and more than just you, because it exists, you know, when we really lean into you, having a philosophy of spirituality is for the purpose of accessing those, like, miracles, those placebo, belief is permission, fluke things where you believe, you know, that you're going to get food and it arrives. and there's something about, like, that belief that facilitates the process of its arrival. Like, this is nuts and bolts, you know, spirituality. And so when we think about what our guides are saying in terms of the miracles that are endless, that they do provide, that they can provide, that we are participating in the mechanism of relationship that does, in fact, provide, and has always done so in ingenious ways, in harmony. The answer does not come in an envelope. It comes in conversation. It comes in experience. It comes in a dream. The mother, the divine feminine aspect of God, speaks in chorus. She talks in junctures, like, you know, in volleys, like, between symbols and, you know, and tangible, like, you know, experience. She speaks in everything. And so when we think about what it is to receive that wisdom, receive that care, be in a receptive, open place for what it is to have miracles that are endless, you know, we first have to understand that whatever situation that you are facing, where you have the zoomies, where you have panic, where you have your guides being like, everything is fine, like, we are here 1,000%, you know, we always have been. Every single time that you have been in a position where it was sink or swim, every single time when you've been in a position where you didn't know the direction, but you were walking because you were lost, and you just kept on moving because you knew it was somewhere over here, and you were just going to get there by, like, prayer alone. I mean, how many of us have been without the navigator for 15 minutes, you know? And so, like, this is what I mean. Like, we're going to sort of take a different position and take dominion over whatever the fears that might be coming up around a tower and a move. Six of Swords is a move. It's a distance traveled. it's a new horizon, and so that is by default not a stable foundation. The Eight of Cups, again, that's underneath. Like you've walked away from something, or you're walking away from something. And let's look at what that walking away process is a little bit. Like, let's look at what is it? Like, what is your walking away process? What are you walking away from? I want to have a sense of what you are walking away from with this Tower, this Page of Wands. You know, in some ways, you're walking away from a different way of being, a different way of doing life, a different version of yourself. I feel with this collective very powerfully that what the moment that we are in is like I'm going to just say it. I'm a part of this collective. Like, I'm not exempt from, you know, any of the criticisms that come through from our guides. And we need to grow the fuck up as a collective. Like, we are in this group. I know you, I see you, I feel you. Like, we need to, like, this is a group that, like, lives in the Hecate and liminal spaces. You know, this is a group that for one reason or another, like, is neither here nor there, and like and facilitates the growth between and operates like, you know, these are the outliners. This is like people who live, like, there's such a cool thing with this collective. But the hardest lesson that we have to have in terms of you meeting your potential and arriving at like what it is to operate in your purpose and potential, and that's an evolving thing, but it's also like goal oriented, there's structure around it, is to like in some ways be able to like tolerate like places that aren't the flow state, you know, situations that aren't in one way or another like enabling you to be like altered, like in a way, like it's, you know, like let's get into it. Let's see. Yeah, the new projects and the learning, like the learning curve. You know, we think of learning as being like easy, right? But I was talking to someone who was having a really hard time teaching their kid to read because the school's like and things and busy, and like, you know, the kid is just like falling below like reading stuff. But the kid is really interested in magic, like it's like endless. And so this mom's like, yeah, you know, like that, like you know, magic. And it's like, and I'm like, oh my gosh, well, like letters, like this is huge. Like, let's just take this from a different perspective. You know, like this kid is like, I'm never gonna read. I hate it. I don't need to read. Like, I don't need to read. You know, I have my iPad. Like, so that's like the kid, right? And yeah, the brawler. You know what I mean? Confrontation. Like, you know, I will not like sit and learn. You know what I mean? Like, I'm learning. It's plugged into my brain. With the masquerade here, hiding the true self, projection. You know, an encounter with your true self is an encounter with your limitations, and an encounter with like the distance between where you are and where you want to be, and like really engaging with the nuts and bolts of the discomfort of that learning process. Because gaining muscle, like nature tells us things, gaining muscle requires like the discomfort of like doing it. Like, and anybody who has like a fitness routine, like this is like, you have to suffer, you know, initially, because it doesn't feel good to exert yourself beyond like the bare minimum. Like, we are creatures of comfort zones. We're koalas in some sense, you know. That's part of like, you know, what we are as a human species. Like, we're not a violent species. Like, that's actually an interesting thing that I was talking to guides about, because the masses take a really long time to revolt. So like most people aren't violent. Like, the violent ones are in charge because we're not a violent species, not the opposite. And so what we're seeing here with like, that's like a whole zoomie right there. But what we're seeing here about, you know, the way in which your guides want you to focus and learn something and go through the discomfort of a skill gap related to where you're meant to be, because there's something there. And they want you to know that this time out, like to slow down through this process of self-discovery. Because what I said to this mom who's having a hard time getting her kid to learn to read was that like, if this child wants to learn magic, and I don't mean like, you know, I mean magic, they have to master symbols, right? And so like I was telling her, I was like, symbols are like a big deal, right? You know, this is not a small thing. And letters are symbols. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Like magic, what magic really is, you want your magic working. You want to engage your magic. Well, it's reading like is a really, really big part of it, because that is like we enter in in our infancy. And so like we enter magic in our infancy. And so this kid who like knows that they want to learn magic, but doesn't want to learn the symbols, doesn't really want to learn magic, right? And so that's where we have the masquerade. And so when we have all these like things coming up about where we're going, and we're racing in one direction, we're racing in another, if we skip the process of discovery, like this is a really important example. The kid wants to learn magic on the YouTube every day, like listening, talking points, but like literally can't sit still long enough to like make a desired outcome happen. And so the key, the truth is that this child will be an enormous success when they develop the discipline involved in the process of learning and teaching and forcing yourself and working with the resources that are available even when you hit a wall. Because I had learning disabilities, growing up, and I know like what it is to struggle with certain things and have like a wall and need accommodations. But that whole process of discovery, I need accommodations. What are they gonna be? Okay, like now we have a learning curve. We have a muscle that's being gained around doing things in a different way than others do it. Now we have novelty. So like we can't skip the nuts and bolts of bridging the skill gap that your guys are showing me when we talk about a timeout. And so the miracles are endless. And your guys are like, I want to give you the endless miracles. Belief is permission. You have to believe that something good can happen in order to have the motivation to put the work in. And even if you don't know where you're going, and I think that that's why we have a pause and a timeout. And I think that that's what this is. I think that there's a part of you that does things in a certain way, right? The foundations here and the confrontation, that you're doing things in a way that is not really like serving what it is to build. Spirit has a plan, right? So like to build what it is that Spirit is planning for you. And what Spirit is planning for you are endless miracles. What you're being told here in terms of like your endurance is time out. What you're feeling in life right now is time out also. And so when you're sitting in timeout and you're feeling in timeout, like we can have an experience of that where we're like, it's punishment, right? If we think that there's a party going on in the next room, but there's not a party going on in the next room. There's a tower here. That's the bigger picture that we're a part of. And you're having to walk away from a way of doing things with the Page of Cups that was not grown up, in one way or another, like being rule followers, being a people pleaser, being compliant, like those are all things that get in the way of our maturation, certainly our spiritual maturation and our development of vision and so on and so forth. And it's not that we don't need to be nurtured and facilitated and assisted. We do. Part of being, in our purpose is existing in an ecosystem, which means there are other people who are supposed to be doing other things that support our supporting them. Like, we have a whole imbalance issue because competition is like an unnatural virus over what productivity is and should be, and so when we see this here in terms of like what your guys are saying about like, there's a confrontation with what it means for you to build a foundation on whatever that mask is. So there's a mask at play, and your guys are kind of saying there is a mask at play. Maybe you don't see the mask. And so I kind of feel like you might not see the mask, which is why timeout is really important. Sometimes we don't see our mask. Like I've been watching reality TV. Like I don't usually do that, but like, I don't know. Sometimes I just like get into it, like I'm cleaning, I'm like doing, and I need something in the background that like I don't need to pay attention to. And reality TV is like one of these things, like I don't need a plot. It's just, so I'm having Mormon mom talk in the background, kind of like, where I pick up like a minute or two as I'm like, I don't know. And I see them kind of like with this 10 of Pentacles. I guess that's a lot of money. And the the Ace of Swords, Truth, and the Wheel of Fortune, with the King of Wands and the Seven of Wands and the Tower again. Like we're having an experience. Wow, that's interesting that came out with the King of Pentacles. That's like so fascinating. I just saw something, but That was supposed to be an ancillary, like off-topic thing, but I think we're gonna bring this in, because that whole show, I've just been watching people discover the masks that like I've been watching like a game of projections, like with that whole show, and I know that some of them know that they're doing it and some of them don't, and I have a keen sense of these things because I'm psychic and I work with people at the most, like, you know, like I get in, like I'm under the hood all the time, and I live under the hood, and so I see from under the hood, and so I've been watching them in a process of like projections and misdirection, like and self-discovery and projections and misdirections, and so like I bring that comes into play here somehow, in terms of like, you know, you might not even know that there's a projection and a misdirection going on, and so this time out is like, your guys are saying like, okay, so they're showing me that, because I'm like, this is weird, why are we talking about that? So I've been watching this reality TV show, and I'm coming from a perspective where I'm looking at all these characters and I'm thinking, you don't know this, you don't know that, you don't know this, you don't know that, you're gonna learn it eventually, like this is a shit show. I'm sorry you're doing this in public. Excuse me, I still have like the flu and the cough from last week. Not the flu, but the cough is like hanging on, it's some kind of a thing. But I've been judging these people, you know, like, you know, like I've been looking at them and seeing that like those who are engaging and judging are ranking, and those who are engaging with their life, you know, whether it's coping, or, you know, doing something different, are like by default becoming the main character, because they're absent those who are doing the ranking, and those who are doing the ranking are mired in politics. Whereas those that are doing the doing, whether they're doing it on purpose or because they're too like overwhelmed to care, like are actually like shifting the balance of attention. Like, so I'm like watching this interplay and this formula play itself out. And I'm thinking, like, I am thinking of myself and seeing myself in the same way that our spirit guides are watching us. Our spirit guides watch the reality TV of our show, and they see the masks that we're wearing. They see the projections and the misdirection that we don't even know is there, and they see that they see that the addictive behaviors that we engage in the absence of like a center of gravity that is either coping, where you're like literally spinning out and you can't do anything but cope, so it doesn't matter, you're in a meltdown, like you are, no one else is in that moment, like, you know what I mean, and there's no politics in that moment, there is just survival, right? And that does, again, it shifts the balance. And so when we think about like this shifting of the balance, the necessity for survival, the skill gap that like we need to overcome and we need to work on, like when all of that stuff is at play, that's the bigger picture that we're a part of. And our guides look at us and they are telling us to stop, and like, and they're cautioning us to like, you know, sit in a place of humility, because there's something about our engaging with others or our engaging with our work judgment that like we need to stop, and we need to like reevaluate, and we need to do things in a different way, because like whatever the panic is, we're called into a tranquility, into a peace. That Six of Swords is about moving from a place of like zoomies and hectic and panic into a place of calm and reception and reflection. And that's what this time out and this journey that we're being taken on, we're being pulled into a journey with that tower on the bottom of the deck. And we're being called to walk away from old, like those emotional investments that were in old outcomes, old ways of being, old structures, old everything. Like we're gonna have to walk away from that, and it was very immature, and so we are called to grow up. And one of the first things that we need to do in order to grow up is really have a moment of reflection with this judgment and this time out, and left, where are we going? If we don't know, that's all right, but our guides have a confrontation with us building on top of I don't know where I'm going. And where they are calling you now in terms of this time out is to like look at yourself. What do you look like? You know what I mean? Like the King of Pentacles, you know, says like there's something here with this Eight of Pentacles and the King of Pentacles. So like you're being told that like it is time to put in the work, and there will be benefit from it. It's leading to a King of Pentacles place. So anyway, when I was talking about that show, which came up for some reason, it's like I don't actually know what's going on, because I only watch it like 3 minutes between like rooms at a time. Like, yeah, I'm vacuuming, you know, like turn off the vacuum, like then I hear like a minute or two, you know. So it's like, but the Ten of Pentacles here does speak to like generational wealth. Okay, it speaks to like, this is interesting. I'm gonna just go there. I don't care. So when we are like, I've been thinking about social media a lot lately because I'm rethinking everything about my approach to it. And I'm also thinking about, I'm rewriting my book. I'm taking, I have an insight, like an anchor insight that has me reorganizing everything. And so with this Ten of Pentacles, like, you know, when it comes to building a foundation for yourself, like if it's not holding, if whatever you have going on is I'm seeing somebody bailing out a sinking ship, you know what I mean? Like if you're just trying to get the water out of the boat constantly, that means the foundation, we need to stop, you know, and we need the timeout. We need to think, we need to get the life jacket on, and we need to like blow up the lifeboat. Like this boat is not going to work. We have to move the essentials into the smaller vessel and set out sail like towards something that is not a sinking ship. Like there's a point, right? And so you guys are saying with this Ten of Pentacles here, like, and I feel that you have to do something over or new, or there's a new foundation to be built. That's why I'm saying this. This is not a threat, and there's nothing scary, and I don't see anybody, you know, with Tower. Like, you know, there is something about, there's a Tower, the foundation does not work. There's Ten of Pentacles, there's a new foundation to be built. We are talking about foundations here. Eight of Pentacles, we're going to get some gains. We just have to work on it. So your guides are basically saying here in terms of this Ten of Pentacles, like, yeah, you have endless miracles. Spirit does have a plan. What you have to do in terms of this time out, this listen, your guides are, they're singing like Christmas carols of chill out, calm down, you know, like shh, shh, shh. You know, and what we have here with the Ace of Swords is Ten of Pentacles. This is something that is of great value that you have to offer, that is your own legacy. Ten of Pentacles. There's a time out. There's a judgment. Your guides are calling judgment. They're throwing a judgment flag. And they're saying there's a mask here, and you need to work your way out of what it is to, like, this mask, hiding your true self and projection. There's something going on there. And even though we don't have, like, exactly what the answers are, like, we have an array of clues. We have reality TV. Our guides are kind of watching our lives like reality TV. They're seeing us play games. We are witnessed. So if we know that we're witnessed and we can think of like 5 red flags that we've engaged in, that's where the work starts in terms of what it means for you to build the right foundation. Because again, the center of attention never goes to the strategist. The strategist is operating outside of intention, right? Intention is being firmly in your experience and expressing from it authentically. And authenticity is not like an aesthetic, and it's not like arriving at a certain like refined like art style. Like it's being in your life, living from your perspective, embodying yourself. Embodying yourself so fully that there's nothing else, that it takes up space like in a certain kind of way. And that's like, it's very hard to explain because it's not a self-centered, it's not a selfish, it's embodied, it's presence. And so you guys are saying, you know, with the truth here about the mask is not presence. And so there's something that we have to think about there. And it's something difficult because I'm not coming to it easily. There's something that judgment call is being made on. Now, tranquility, like be at peace, like no one's in trouble, right? But like when you think about the guides that are around you, and we're engaging with miracles, we're engaging with belief, and we're engaging with the belief very strongly that we're assisted by our guides. And so our guides look at us and they take an eye of like, this is where you're going right, this is where you're going wrong. And when we take a time out to connect with them, it can be hard. Tranquility on the bottom of the deck. It can be hard to actually make the zoomies stop. I'm talking to a group when we say grow up, and we have to grow up and it's time to grow up, who is addicted to flow states, like the zoomies, you know, like work ethic that is actually like running for your life and begging for mercy in one way or another. And I'm part of this collective, so I'm not judging you. We're having a moment together. Like we're all in it, you know, and we have a Ten of Pentacles value But the Ace of Swords here says, like, the truth with the change with the Wheel of Fortune. The Wheel of Fortune always speaks to me of like some form of external change that is imposed upon you that makes things like different. It can be an inner shift. At the Tower, the Six of Swords, the journey, with the Amara, that's like the voyage, the time out, the time and tide, the endurance, the keep going. All of those cards together, all of them together, speak to a movement, like a very like significant movement from like, and I do feel some external influence here. But with the King of Wands being about your passion, your drive, your fight within you to like get, you know, that's that part of you that rallies and that pushes yourself forward and that does get there, that is victorious. But the Seven of Wands does call for a defense around this Tower. Tower. Six of Swords, Eight of Cups, Page of Wands. This is quick. I'm not afraid. I am not fearful. I'm curious. So with the King of Pentacles again, like your stability is, there's an insurance. So there's different people in this collective, and I'm going to try and speak to the two symbols that I'm seeing. I mentioned this to a friend this morning, actually. There are people who are waking up to a skill gap. And that is where they don't have this, they have the big ideas, they have the inspiration, they have the vision, and they have the divine genius. You know, they have the flow states, they have the easy access. They have the quality, they have the center of gravity, they have the self-possessed, they have the presence. People who are waking up to their skill gap, a skill gap, are aware that like the world is changing, things are changing, and they need to take all of their inspiration and they need to develop the skills to properly like put it into the world, and then it's a tactical process, and they have to do some skill set work. They have to work on gaining certain skills, but they know that they have the talent. But then there are other people who are waking up to like a talent gap. They have the wherewithal. They know what the methods are. They're good at the book reports. Like, you know what I mean? They made good grades, right? But they don't, you know, it's not that they can attain skills, but what they can't do is like attain whatever that quality is, whatever that center of gravity is. And so people are like kind of like waking up to like one deficit or another depending on their neurotype, basically. And so that's like really wordy and like kind of, I don't know why it came through that way, but that Tower, the bigger picture that we're a part of, is going to be a tower in terms of like, where are we purposed, where do we belong, where do we find ourselves, how do we contribute to society in a way that creates a Ten of Pentacles experience, creates a foundation for the King of Pentacles, where you have your castle, you know what I mean, and you have your dominion, and you have mastery over the material world. That means you're not poor. That means you're not hungry. That means you're not under-resourced. And so your guides are saying the miracles are endless. Spirit has a plan. You get to be King of Pentacles, but you have to make up the difference in whatever you're experiencing by way of this Tower is highlighting a deficit. And some people, it's a little bit of both. Some people, it's a vision gap and a skill gap, you know, and that means that there's like elementary work to be done at the level of discovery, augury. And so, you know, that's the kid who needs to learn how to read. The interest is there, the desire is there, the drive is there. But at the level of, you have to first do the mundane. You have to actually like participate in the mundane. You have to learn that like letters are symbols, and that is one of the best forms of magic. That's the most prolific form. I mean, this is a form of magic that you're gonna have a whole experience. The worlds that you can enter with that kind of magic, that magic wand of the letters go together, they make sounds. The sounds go together, they make words. Now you can engage in different forms of telepathy, and you can enter into the imagination and the other worlds of universes that existed 100 years ago. That's the way we sell it, by the way. You know what I mean? Like, we think about, like, is it evil? Is the sales pitch evil, or is what we're selling, the problem? If we're selling, like, if you learn to read, you're going to get a job and then you can be a successful doctor or a lawyer. Like, the kid is going to be like, I want magic. Thank you very much. I'm going to stick my head in the machine. We have a problem at the level of articulating things, right? And so the needs are there, and what you are tasked to now is to not be afraid of the absence of direction and the inability to, like, build your house on a falling tower that is just kind of the world that we're in one way or another. You're meant to slow down and begin to invest in. Miracles are endless, first of all. Mother and mediator, the dilettante, and the miser, right? So money, right? We have survival. We can just call money survival. It's not, it's unfortunate that we have to contend with that, but, like, we'll think of it that way. There's a part of you that is saying, I have the zoomies and I need to make money, and I need this to, to work for me. I need this. I don't have time to make up the difference in the skills. I don't have time to, figure out the vision. I need to, that's addiction. And I understand where it comes from. We're programmed with it very early on, and we're programmed to conflate survival with addiction in this way. And so I invite you to think of survival and an addiction in two different categories, because survival is meticulous, it's slow, it's like the animal who, when the animal hears a predator in the forest, that animal does not start, like, running in circles and, like, jumping up and down. I feel, oh my God, you know what I mean? That's not what the animal is doing. When the animal senses a predator in the forest, when survival is at play, the animal becomes very still. Its ears go down. It doesn't move a muscle. It smells slowly and silently, and it focuses all of its energy, and it listens. That is what the animal does when it senses a predator, when survival is at play. The animal does not start running around the living room and jumping up the walls with excitement, because that's the opposite, right? And so when we think about the addiction to survival, like, survival is one thing and addiction is others. Addiction is, I'm going to get there, and I'm going to get there first, and I'm going to win. And I don't care what it's going to take. I'm not going to let myself blah. Survival is, wait a minute. I'm running in circles. I'm tired. I'm bailing out a sinking ship. I don't know what direction I'm going, but I'm pushing myself to go, go, go. Like, no, you guys are saying, okay, you're sensing a predator. There's a tower. Like, what's the security? What's the future? Where am I going? You're sensing a predator, but you're being called into a stillness. You're being called to get still, to listen, to connect with your guides, to connect with your belief, to trust that there is a plan that you don't see the shape of yet, but that you participate in when you, again, we have to judge. We have to actually face this. We have to face the truth about what it is going to take to bring what we have to offer. With that 10 of Pentacles, you have something to offer. The truth of what you have to offer into this new thing, right? And so the mother is, again, about bringing something to life, giving birth to your life, giving birth to the life that you want to give yourself, that you want to have, being the one that takes care of you. So, like, when you step into that archetype of the mother, you're taking care of you first. The archetype of the mother is not self-sacrifice for others. The archetype of the mother is she takes care of herself, and her children are an extension of herself. But she is not taking care of one to the detriment of the other. Taking care of herself is taking care of them, and she knows that. And so the same goes to whatever you're trying to create and bring into the world. Taking care of yourself is bringing that piece of work, that piece of art, that success, that child into the world. And that is where you need mastery. That is where the 8 of Pentacles work needs to be done right now. That is where you have to stop with the Zooms And that's why we have to grow up. And so we have to engage with the skill building, with the learning how to read of the mother archetype and taking care of ourselves. Because there's something here out of balance and we know it. And that thing that's out of balance is we're not practiced. We have some skill gap. We have some vision gap. It's okay. That gap tells us that this is a time to slow down, take a time out. If it's not clear, if you're lost, don't keep moving. And I made that mistake this week. So I think, like we all do it, this is the dilettante. And so one of the things that I keep watching about, the show, the Mom Talk show is on Hulu, and it's like playing in the background. And I really don't know what's going on. I mean, that's the truth. I'm actually not like endorsing it or otherwise. It's just there. So, but it's in my reading. I'm seeing it kind of come through. Because with the miser being about the tower that we're like, let's just be real. You want to know the bigger picture that we're a part of? We're going to see like economic collapse everywhere in every direction. Because the quickest way out of the pit that we're in collectively, and I'm just going to say this as like a, oracle, right? Like tapping into the guides and the gods and the bigger picture. The best possible scenario for the masses when it comes to a financial collapse is if it happens all at once, and the rebuild and the effort towards the rebuild is immediate. And if it happens in different regions and different places and it's a slow collapse, that will cause war. But if there's some agreement globally that like the collapse is impending, it's going to happen. And if it's initiated as an all at once, then there's an all at once, all hands on deck unity solution in the way of like a new system in place as a stopgap that builds a new system. And so like I'm saying that as an oracle, right? And so that's like that's not usually like what I bring to this environment. But with the Midas here being about economic collapse and like where is the value going to be found? Where are you going to find value in a world where, the old status goalposts are no longer standing? So how are you going to value your services? How are you going to value yourself? How are you going to value what you have to offer? Like this time out with the dilettante, and the dilettante does speak to me. I'm going to read the shadow. And I need my glasses on, so that's frustrating. Pretension to much deeper knowledge than you actually possess. That's the dilettante. That is the imposter, and we talk a lot about imposter syndrome when when we should be talking more about it, actually, because it's like everything that is okay. I'm going to try and slow down, get this right in terms of how to explain it. Roles, the trad wife, the rock star, the rebel, these archetypes. There's just like a lot of different there's many different archetypes. It's kind of how we have consciousness like operate. Everything associated with roles and competition and strategy, and what I'm watching with the show where I'm like, okay, the center of gravity always shifts to the person having the authentic experience that's living from within their experience and away from those who are in comparison and judgment. Anything that is a role that you play that is not that center of gravity where you walk around you, that are indwelling and presence, and there's no distance between when you like think and yeah, like it's a thing, it's an alchemy, it's an arrival. There is actually no imposter syndrome with that, because it's not trying to figure out how you fit in the role that you've cast for yourself with the mask. And so we're taught to fit roles, to like embody roles, to give life to the archetype. When we're growing up and we're watching the movies and we're seeing like the different people, we kind of identify with like the characters, and when we go through puberty and start to dress like those characters, we are stepping into those roles. And there is a feeling of this isn't me. There is some kind of a feeling of like I'm more than this. And when we are obedient and when we're playing those roles, that's almost like when we're given the religion and we believe it, and we haven't really investigated it from that like foot of the cross, death of God moment. And so like we have this whole beginning part of our lives that is about being given the answers and trying to wear them and trying to hold them and trying to perform them and trying to be them. And there is an imposter syndrome feeling that goes naturally with that, because that's not the same thing as like living from your own center of gravity. And your own center of gravity happens one of two ways. You are in such a traumatic state and in such a traumatic experience. PTSD is like a good example of like, you are by default like in your center of gravity, even if that is unpleasant, and so like it pulls you into yourself and out of the world and out of politicking and out of caring. And so it's like it's a detriment because you can't even do those things anymore. But in some ways it refocuses you on like what is actually not going to go away unless you pay attention to it. And that healing process and what you can bring to that sort of attention and capacity towards attention is very unique. And so your guys are saying that like, I'm not encouraging PTSD, but I feel it in this group. And I also think that like we have to start thinking about what it is to consciously engage with like what we're being called to confront within ourselves and in our relationships with ourselves, to get out of this point of pretensions to much deeper knowledge than you actually possess. Because to possess the knowledge is to embody it. And embodying it, there's no difference between you and the wisdom that comes from you. Like, there's no work involved. It's like it's literally like you being you. And so that's going to be what is required, in this time out and in this Eight of Pentacles work here, is whatever the projection is, whatever the mask is, if there's a feeling of like, I'm not like the role is there's a distance between the role that you're playing and the person that you are. Like, what is that? Like, what does that even look like? What does that even mean? Now, some of our roles are given to us, like mother, sister, daughter, yoga instructor, career woman, career man, like father, soldier. But the diving for light is kind of like, this is where we're getting called into like judgment. Because what is the light attribute of this card? Delights in the arts without having to be a professional. Yeah, that's going to be a big one with the tower that we're looking at here. The tower is about taking status and art and separating those two in kind of a big way. And only those like truly devoted to that art are going to, like, you have to love something to continue to engage with what it means to create in that way. And so again, like there's the role, there's the mask, there's the pretend, there's the I want to be this way because like a lot of our masks we don't even know that we're wearing. Like a lot of our drive is like, I want to be, a career woman who like rules an empire and I'm not going to be anything else. And what's driving that is like a fear of like ever feeling weak again, and that started when you were 10, and that's not the same as taking delight in what you're doing, and that's why you want it. So you want to do something because it gives you more delight than anything. For some people that's cooking, baking, and so the diving for the light is like moving outside of the soldier and the status and the politics, and like moving into an experience, however painful it might be, of center of gravity, honesty with yourself, and center of gravity, like ground zero, you know what I mean? Like, and that's not a scary place with the inspiration. It is a place where we are open to inspiration. And so you're being called to be open to inspiration. The inspiration that is going to get you where you're going, because you're in a timeout, and you feel it, you're in it, but the inspiration that's going to get you where you're going, Six of Swords, comes from this timeout. It comes from this go silent. It comes from this diving for light. I don't know where I'm going. I don't know who I am. I don't know how to do this. You know what happens when you don't know what you're doing, you don't know where you are, and you don't know how to do this, and you stop the zoomies? Do you know what happens in that space of quiet? First are the rage voices. Everybody did you wrong. Nobody loves you. This is that you have the judgment. You know what I mean? Like, first we judge others before we're capable or able to judge ourselves. When we need to have that judgment moment, first we have like there's like it's the rage bait, where all of that repressed anger and all of that like unresolved conflict and all of that unspoken or unwitnessed pain comes up for a review. So the first thing that happens when we stop with the drive, when we stop with the addiction, and when we get to the nuts and the bolts of survival is we get very still and we get very honest with ourselves. We need to accomplish X, Y, and Z in order to sustain this X, Y, and Z. Like, that's the nature of survival, is kind of strategy in one way or another. But the strategy isn't how other people view you. The strategy isn't how other people have treated you. The strategy isn't they're going to get theirs and they should know this and they did me wrong and now I'm in this position and it's because of them. That's not the strategy. That's the zoomies. So we first encounter the avoidance of all of that pain in the form of the referendum on others. Every time. That doesn't mean others aren't guilty. Yes, they are, but they're not the point. They're not the strategy. The strategy is to operate from presence, to operate from your own center of gravity. And in order to do that, you're going to get honest with yourself. And what that means is, I have a skill gap here, but I'm really good here. Yeah. I have a lack of vision here, but I have know-how here. I'm struggling with these things and I have to kind of slow down and I have to think and I have to listen. And that doesn't mean that I'm gonna fail. That doesn't mean that at all. It means I'm opening myself to inspiration, where the miracles are endless and the plan that Spirit has for me can make itself known. We're in a bigger picture where we're facing an economic discomfort, even if you're comfortable, even if you are successful at this time. You're still facing the discomfort of this is like a really gnarly work environment. You know, in one way or another, you're like working with people who are panicking, you know, or you're trying to deal with your own panic, or you're in the midst of some kind of change where like it just feels like overly, you know what I mean? So like whatever this is, this collective is being called into a slow it down. Slow it down. You're going to get miracles. Spirit has a plan. You can't get the miracles if you're zooming. And if you're having the zoomies, you're making it harder because you're supposed to be listening, because this call to be honest with yourself about the change that's coming in, because you do have what it takes in terms of passion. You do have what it takes in terms of what the vision will be. You have what it takes in terms of vision. Even if you're kind of confronted with your lack of vision right now, you still know that you can like get that vision and work with it, because your skill set, unlike the other stuff, is good. So you're waiting for a vision, right? And so that King of Wands says you are capable, or you have vision and you're waiting for the skills. And the King of Wands said, well, you have the vision, but now you need to like go and look up how you're going to do this and actually tactically take it down, you know, make it into a material thing. That you have the power to do too with the King of Wands. You can push that passion forward. You can persevere with it. So no matter where you're standing, lack of vision or lack of skill, you know, like whatever the skill gap is, you have what it takes, and you are, with the Seven of Wands, gonna have to put in the effort, because we have upheaval, we have change, we have an instability in relationship to a new stability being built, you know, and what we're called to do is not to be a miser. Oh my gosh, that's hard to do. What does that mean? I look at it energetically, you know, like King of Pentacles, like, you know, there's some form of like you're already established in one way or another, or you will be established, or there's a promise of being established. The miser happens when we engage with competition, which we should not do. And that's a big lesson, because competitors, when they exist, they bait you, you know, and if you have any tendency to like have justice sensitivity, you're gonna like want to destroy these people, and that's gonna take you away from the work that you're meant to do, right? You know what I mean? And so then you're going to be like, or you're going to, you know, even if from an evolved place, you're going to want to like set them straight. You're going to want to persuade them not to be horrible. Like you're going to see the errors of it's like watching the reality TV, like being the guides and just being like, well, you're just destroying yourself. Okay. You know, but like the bottom line of the deck here with the miser is going to be about like a gold rush or a bloodbath, or, you know, because the miser is it's scarcity, you know, it's that mentality of watching every nickel, counting every penny, you know, clocking the exchange. You know, I am I there for you? Are you there for me? Like, I watch this show again. I always pop in, and the arguments, whatever they are, they seem to sound the same to me, because so I'm watching this reality TV series, and I'm watching it while I'm cleaning, building, cooking, you know, vacuuming. It's not on, and the only reason I'm watching it is because I don't require context, and for whatever reason, it's just like body doubling, you know. But because I'm not in the storyline and I don't follow the stories at all, I'm only getting these little clippets of arguments, and the arguments are the same. And so it doesn't matter what, because I guess I'm on like season 3, because I've just been having it in the background for a while. It doesn't matter whether I'm on season 1 or season 3. It seems like they're having the same argument, even though the context has changed. And so again, like, my psychic abilities like are such that like I just have a different spin when I look at people. You know, I'm under the hood, you know, like, and so, like there's this way in which, oh gosh, I just got like, I lost the whole situation, but we get stuck in these, like this comparison shit with the miser, right? You know, I showed up for you, but you didn't show up for me. And they're always talking to the people who can't cope, right? In one way or another, right? So the two characters that tend to take that center stage in one way or another, or have that main character, I guess, like vibe, like tend to be the ones who are not judging, right? If you're judging others, you're in strategy, you're in comparison. If you're in the judgment loop, if you're quiet, if you move out of the zoomies and now you're just the judge and the jury of everybody else, like, again, that's strategy, that's competition, that's I'm not going to get you, I'm not going to let this get to me, I'm going to keep on moving, I'm not going to lose, which is like the opposite of survival again, you know. And so like so the ones who like don't show up to the baby shower, it's because they're having some kind of like nervous breakdown. You know what I mean? Like, or they embarrass themselves so bad that like they can't even live anymore. You know what I mean? Like, whatever the situation is, I don't actually know the stories. I just see the little moments. And so when I say that, it's to say that it's actually flipped. It's actually flipped, because the mother card is, the mother understands that she literally cannot show up for anyone unless she's showing up for herself. And that means, like, if she's showing up for herself, that's not selfish. It means she can't cope, and she's got to put her shit together before she can even show up, because to show up in shambles is to put that shambles on somebody else, right? And so when you see these people sort of like, they go into a place of reflection, of retreat, of figuring it out, they also like learn, and they come out stronger, and they come out new and different people, and that presence follows them into the new circumstance. And no matter what, like you know, there is supporting each other, and there is exchange, but there's also something to be said for like embodying your life as being like, I don't know, like, I'm losing it with this apocalypse here. I think we have to end our reading soon because my dog is crying. I'm losing the thread. But I think with the miser here, we're talking about a system of exchange, and we're talking about comparisons, and we're talking about competition. And we've been preparing all year for this dead end, right? For this tower, for this moment when there's a reckoning around a change in terms of roles and economics and strategy and creating and buying and selling. And so as we are in the tower, we're experiencing it, we're in a part of it. We hope for a kind of a situation where, you know, every major institution gets on board. I know we don't trust the institutions, but they're kind of the, you know, there's a system that needs to be reborn, and not one that, like, I don't know, I'm losing all of my threads because my guides are stopping. They're not like giving me more information. They're not letting me go too far with this. We're in a tower. It's obvious where you are positioned in that tower, you know, it doesn't matter. You're still seeing, you're still experiencing it. You're still in some relationship to it. There's change here. You're being called to stop panicking, to stop zooming, to stop running, to get really still, to listen, to confront the truth about whatever it is that you feel that you are lacking in either the way of vision when it comes to getting in direction, because you're looking for inspiration, or when it comes to strategy, to building, when it comes to making that inspiration something that you can do something with. These are two different places for two different groups in this collective. And some of you are in different, like some of this and some of that, a mix of both. But the call to walk away from the old way of valuing, the old way of seeing, the old way of allocating effort, and the old way of charting your path forward based on what you want to achieve. The dead end, we have to stop, we have to halt, wait for it. Wait for it. When that tower starts to really fall, I can tell this collective, I've been working with you guys for a long time, we're gonna be fine. We're gonna be fine. It's gonna look one way, and it's gonna be another. And we're going to be all right, right? But the miracles are endless. We got to get clear on who we are. Who are you? Who's the person you want to be? What's the kind of work that you want to do? What does that look like? The vision, the inspiration, call it in if you don't have it. If you have a vision and you know what you want, now's the time to get really clear on what are the nuts and bolts of what it's going to take to give this thing life. To bring this thing to life. And if it's only a partial vision, then you're in the middle and you have to kind of work on a little bit of both. But your guys are like, begin to engage. Spirit has a plan. There's a prayerful spiritual co-creation in the belief that the miracles are endless. You're not subject to the rules of your own worst fears. There's a lot of influence in terms of what it's going to be for you to sink or swim here. You're meant to die for life and light. There is a need to create a whole new foundation for yourself, no matter what age you are. That's true of everyone. We were given a false bill of goods in the way we were prepared for a future that is not even in existence yet, but it's not the one that we were given all of the instructions for. That's everyone. Pick up your head, the bigger picture you're a part of. Your guides don't want you to be in confrontation with the necessity to start over. They don't want you to be in confrontation with the necessity to begin to think about a new foundation to stand on. They don't want you to be fighting with that reality. They want you to accept that reality. There's a judgment call here, but what you have is of great value. You are of great value. How is that going to translate into this whole tower experience? Well, we're not looking at it from systems of exchange because we believe in miracles. And so that's where we're going to end this, because it's going really long. And my guys are just like, that's enough. But watch and wait a little bit. There's a call to watch and wait. The judgment day, judgment call. We're going to work through it. We've got each other. We are a support system, and I think that even thinking about support systems in a new way is something that we're going to do, because I am getting something from whatever that. This is a silly show. I'm not advocating that you watch it. But it's kind of like that's a very important thing, that if you are engaging in judgment, you're not really facing what's happening on the inside and working with what's happening on the inside, and what's happening on the inside and working with what's happening on the inside. When you really sit with, yes, all these people did all of these things, but I feel inadequate for X, Y, and Z reasons, and it hurts. It just hurts. And I need to forgive, and I need to and forgive is not about other people. That it's about release, okay? And so there's so much here about changing your focus and really watching what's happening with the addiction to war, the addiction to, that's not the same as survival. That drive is the zoomies in a forest where there's a predator, and that is not the right strategy for survival. And if you feel a fear, if you feel a predator, if you feel a tower, if you feel an inevitable future, if things don't look so great, and I don't know where I'm going to go and what I'm going to do, we don't panic. And if we are panicking again, this is where the spiritual intervention comes in. Get still. Get still. Time out. You are being carried on this journey. Inspiration. That's the wind in the sails. And that is not nothing. It has been what has kept us, alive for as long as humanity has existed. So it is a very big and powerful thing. And it is something that you can have tangible faith in. But yeah, so the judge here. I guess we're having a moment this week we're going to leave it here. Leave comments. I'm going to put, I'm scheduling a live reading. I just am working on the restructuring, because what I want to do with that live reading is have a topic so that we don't go for 5 hours, because that kills people. It kills me to go for so long. And I just, you know, I let it go forever because I don't want anyone to think that their questions aren't valuable, and I kind of want to minister to everybody. But I think if we work with themes, we'll get more out of it somehow, because we can still ask questions, but it won't be, you know, a marathon. So that'll be a good point to touch base. But let's think about what this changes, and that's the dog. That's Hecate's hound. So we're going to leave it there, and I'm sending you all love.